This is lesson 90 in Saxon's Algebra 1, 3rd edition, and this lesson is on word problems with two statements of equality. So we're going to work some problems together, some example problems, and then our practice problems. And hopefully by the time we've done a few of these, you'll be getting in the swing of it. So let's get started. Example 1 says, together, Charles and Nell picked 92 quarts of berries. If Charles picked 6 more quarts than Nell picked, how many quarts did each of them pick? Well, we're going to start out with, we need a couple of different equations, and usually in these we're going to have one that we can substitute into the other to solve. So, first thing we do is we know that the number Charles picked plus the number that Nell picked together was 92. And we know that they did not pick the same amount. Their amounts were not equal. Charles picked more than Nell. So to make these equal, we have to add 6 to Nell's total to make it equal Charles's. So we have NC equals NN plus 6. And now we have something that we can substitute in for NC right here. So we substitute that in, and we combine our like terms. 2n plus 6 is 92. Subtract 6 from both sides, and we have 2n is n is 86. Divide by 2 on both sides, and we find that the number that Nell picked was 43. Now, the second part is really easy. We know that the number that Nell picked plus 6 would equal the number that Charles picked. So if we take 43 that Nell picked and add 6 to it, we get 49, and together 49 and 43 do add up to a total of 92. In example 2, the number of boys in Sarah's class exceeded the number of girls by 7. That means there were more boys than girls. If there were a total of 29 pupils in the class, how many were boys and how many were girls? Alright, so the first thing we have is our total. We know that the boys plus the girls is 29. We know that they're not the same amount. And we also know that the number of boys is 7 more than the number of girls. So if we add 7 to the number of girls, that would equal the number of boys. Now we have this that we can substitute in over here for NB. We substitute it in, and then we add our like terms, and we get 2NG plus 7 is 29. Then if we subtract 7 from both sides, we get 2NG is 22. Dividing by 2 on both sides, we find that the number of girls is 11. Now that we know the number of girls, we know that the number of boys is the number of girls plus 7. If the number of girls is 11, we add 7 to that, then the number of boys is 18. So this would be your answer. Number of girls would be 11, number of boys 18. It's asking you to find both of those. Example 3 says the sum of two numbers is 72. The difference of those same two numbers is 26. And what are the numbers? Alright, now this is a perfect one for elimination. We have number 1 plus number 2 together equals 72. But number 1 minus number 2 gives us 26. Well, we can eliminate, not have to substitute here. We can eliminate the N2s and just find the N1s. So we add these, and we get 2 N1 equals, adding these, 98. If we divide by 2 on both sides, we find that number 1 is, excuse me, is 49. And then if we take that, we can put it into either one of these equations. We can see that 49 plus N2 is 72. Subtract 49 from both sides, and we find that N2 is 23. Now, if we come back up here and add 23 to 49, we will get 72. so we know we have the right answer. In example 4, the greater of two numbers is 16 greater than the smaller. So there's a greater number and a smaller number. They are not equal. The greater number is 16 more than the smaller. When added together, their sum is 4 less than 3 times the smaller number. Now, it's getting a little wordier here, but let's just take it one little step at a time. All right. So we know that when we add the greater number plus the smaller number, the result is 4 less than 3 times the smaller number. So we also know that they are not the same. They don't equal each other. This one is 16 greater than this one. Now I can do this, I can set this up one of two ways. I can say G minus 16 equals S, or I can say G equals S plus 16. Either way, as long as you either take 16 away from this one or add 16 to this one, it's going to work out the same way. I chose to do it like this, and I substituted it right here for S. So we have G plus G minus 16 equals, now we distribute because I substituted this in again here for S, 3G minus 16. When I combine my like terms, I get 2G minus 16 on this side, and over here I've got to distribute. So I get 3G minus 48, 3 times negative 16, and then the negative 4 or minus 4 that I had originally. Now let's try to simplify even more. 2G minus 16 equals 3G minus 52. We added these like terms. Now that we have something a little bit easier to work with, let's subtract 2G from both sides, and then let's add 52 to both sides. When we do that, 3 minus 2 is 1. 52 minus 16 is 36. So we find out that the greater number is 36. Then we go back to either one of our equations. This one would be the easiest. And now we say 36 minus 16 is equal to S. And then we find that S is 20. In our last example, it says the ratio of two numbers is 5 to 4. So we've got our ratio. And the sum of the numbers is 63. So number 1 plus number 2 is equal to 63. But we've got to get our ratio, okay? Let's see. So we have 4 times n1 equals 5 times n2. If we just cross multiply those ratios. All right, and then we will get substituting in over here 4 times, so I've got this actually. I find that if I subtract n2 from both sides here, I end up with n1 equals 63 minus n2. So I can substitute that in to this equation and do my distributive property. 4 times 63 is 252 minus 4 n2 equals 5 n2. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. 4 n2 to both sides, and I get 252 equals 9 n2. If I divide both sides by 9, I will find that n2 is equal to 28. Then I go back in here and I plug this in. If my ratio is 5 to 4, and I know this number is 28, then I can use my ratio equation to find this number, and this number would be 35. I can go back to the same cross multiplying to find the 35. A little more complicated, a few more steps, but you'll get it, I'm sure. So let's do our practice problems. A says that the sum of the two numbers is 98. The difference of the same two numbers is 40. What are the numbers? Okay, so we have two different statements of equality. We have number 1 plus number 2 equals 98. And we have number 1 minus number 2 equals 40. And this will be very easy to use elimination because we already have a positive and a negative here. So we eliminate the number 2 and we have 2 in 1 equals 138. If we divide both sides by 2, we get that the first number is 69. So if the first number is 69 and n minus 1, n 1 minus n 2 equals 40, that's not exactly what I wanted to write there. (69), which is n1, plus n2 equals 98. Well, if we subtract 69 from both sides, we're going to see that n2, number 2, is equal to 29. Alright, we can check that in the second equation. Let's see, n1, which is 69, minus n2 equals 40. And again, if we subtract 69 from both sides, we have negative n2 equals negative 29. And if we divide by negative 1 on both sides, we do see that n2 is equal to 29. So we did get the right answer. So n1 is 69 and n2 equals 29. B says the number of girls in Marvin's class exceeded the number of boys by 11. If there were 37 pupils in the class, how many were girls and how many were boys? Okay, so we know that the number of girls is not equal to the number of boys. So what would we have to do to make those two things equal? Well, if the number of girls exceeds the number of boys by 11, then if we added 11 to the number of boys, then they would be equal. And we also know that the number of girls plus the number of boys is equal to 37. So here we are going to substitute in the value of ng. So ng times, I'm sorry, I'm not having it all together this morning. Recording really early. Alright, so I'm substituting in NB plus 11 plus NB is equal to 37. And I can combine these like terms. So I have 2 NB plus 11 is 37. I subtract 11 from both sides. 2 NB is equal to 26. Divide by 2, and in B, the number of boys is equal to 13. So if the number of girls plus the number of boys, which we now know is 13, is equal to 37, how many girls are there? Well, I substituted in my 13 for the number of boys, and now I'm going to subtract 13 from both sides, and I'm left with the number of girls is equal to 24. And I can see that 24 plus 13 does indeed equal 37. Right, so remember this step right here. When you have an unequal statement of equality, figure out, okay, they're not equal, what do I need to do to make those two equal? And that will help you in setting up your problems. Good job. I'll see you back next time for lesson 91.